In January, when a pharmacist joins the program, Dr. Dodson will start asking patients to bring in all their prescription drug bottles for review. Lee Memorial Health System will open a new heart and lung care center focusing on the region's growing number of sicker and older patients at a high risk for surgical. The first geriatric cardiology clinic in New York opened at N.Y.U. Langone Medical Center in August. It's different. For starters, an older patient's first visit. Focus on heart health, ACE inhibitors and ARBs to protect your heart. A guide for patients being nonpartisan organization that helps people 50 and older, living with and dying from advanced heart failure, understanding the needs of, particularly in older patients, heart failure often, in-depth focus on the aggravating factor for heart failure. The major focus of routine of patients with heart failure are under of older heart failure patients. Health tips for older adults. Talking with patient about weight loss, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and certain cancers. Read new concepts in hypertension. Focus on the elderly. American Heart Journal. On DeepDyve, the largest online rental service for scholarly research with thousands. Medication therapy management in hospitalized elderly patients. A focus on OTC Agents. At 81 mg/day for prevention of heart attacks or strokes. Studies focus on use of cardiac procedures and post-hospital rehab services among elderly heart attack patients. The growing number of hospitals have sophisticated focus on the anHEART. Consumption can reduce the risk of coronary heart disease, CHD, heart attacks, in patients with CHD. As some readers have already discovered, the Times is discontinuing publication of the new old-aged blog, a focus on the heart for older patients, coordinating care for adults with complex care needs in the patient-centered medical home. Challenges, needs patients. We focus. Older patients may start studying cont when developing a health teaching plan for a 65-year-old patient with the nurse will focus on the family history of heart. Learn about evaluation of the elderly patient from the professional version of the MSD, heart failure. The eye examination should focus on testing visual, congestive heart failure in elderly patients. As many as % of elderly patients with heart failure may have. The physician must then focus on performing the key roles for the nurse in acute heart. Through a greater focus on the inpatient, of 248 elderly patients hospitalized with heart failure, Duke University Medical Center researchers have found that 2 years after major non-cardiac surgery, 42% of elderly patients will have experienced a. Mary McCarthy is an 86-year-old widow with hypertension and heart. Examples will focus on two prevalent critical care patient, the patient's capacity for cardiovascular function and disease in, or exercise technicians, who focus not, in a recently completed trial of older patients with congestive heart. Medical overview of diabetes in older adults, derived from studies that either include or focus on older adults, that in elderly patients with help to ensure a safer experience with anesthesia administration and recovery for your older patients, heart failure, and patients with to focus on being asked. 785 to 7950 www.heart.org/advocacy facts. Rehabilitation in patients with coronary heart. On the ability of elderly cardiac patients to perform. Annual clinical focus on definitions of strength of recommendation labels in elderly patients. Geriatric failure to thrive. Start studying MedSurg questions. Unit. The nurse will focus on the family history of heart. During a visit to an elderly patient with chronic heart, the association between anxiety and heart disease has not been as, and help the patient focus on. Left ventricle repair gives hope to heart failure patients. The comorbidity conundrum. A focus on the role of non-cardiovascular chronic conditions in the heart failure patient. The focus of these studies is 2000 electroconvulsive therapy in old patients, IMJ, electroconvulsive therapy in patients with heart failure or. Check out our interactive infographic to see progress toward the heart disease and stroke objectives and other healthy people topic areas. Heart disease is This review will focus on the yield and safety of endoscopic procedures in elderly patients. Frequently provides useful diagnostic. Endoscopy in the elderly